Can you believe it is already 2022? I'm going to have to get used to saying that, 2022. Where 2020 and 2021 went, I can't really tell you. I know you probably, as I do, look back over the last year as you begin a new year and you think through things. You probably take inventory. Maybe some of you don't like to look back at all. But today I'm going to start a series called Transitions. And over the next few weeks, we're going to look at the transitions of life. And we're going to talk about the right way to make transitions. And we're going to talk about some of the things that must happen in order for you to transition well. You know, there is a right way to transition into a new year. Now, I've seen several of my friends saying, please, everybody be quiet about 2022. Let's just ease into this thing gently and nobody make any waves. In fact, sometimes you see people like posting like their thoughts for the year, what's coming. And I've had friends saying, nobody say anything. Let's just sneak into it. Maybe it'll be nice. But the fact is, when you go from one year to the next, nothing magically changes. I hear people saying, Happy New Year, and then they start wishing that the new year, everything that they hope for, everything they dream comes true. But the fact is, again, nothing changes unless you make some changes. I have these quotes that I look at, it seems, every time this year, and I use them a lot in messages because they speak to me and they help me, they remind me. You know, one is just anonymous. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I've heard that all my life. I've also found it to be true. Another one, anonymous, I don't know who first said it, but a dream without a plan is just a daydream. So you can dream about things, but if you don't have a plan to make it happen, it's just a daydream. Or how about Thomas Edison said this, vision without execution is hallucination. And then there's a Japanese proverb that says, vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. Get that? Action, trying to make something happen when you don't have a vision, when you don't know what you're doing, a nightmare. George Washington Carver said, where there is no vision, there is no hope, which sounds a lot like the scripture, where there is no vision, where there is no understanding of God's will, people perish. But probably one of my favorites is from Alice in Wonderland. Lewis Carroll wrote, Alice is trying to find her way, and she asks this question, would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here? And Rabbit says, that depends a good deal on where you want to get to. Alice says, I don't much care where. And then Rabbit says, then it doesn't much matter which way you go. Wow. If you don't know where you're going, if you have no goal, if you have no plans, you'll never know where you got there or not. And it really doesn't much matter which way you go. And then I hope one day I'm remembered for this quote that I said many years ago. If you don't see it, no one else ever will. If you don't see it. Look, you can have a dream, you can have a vision, you can have a thought, you can have an idea, but if you don't really see it, and there's a whole process of seeing it, beginning to say it, and sowing to it by doing the work to see it come to pass. But if you don't see it, no one else ever will. And I think sometimes we want other people to fulfill our vision, but the fact is, whatever you've been called to do, it's just that. It's what you've been called to do. Listen to what Proverbs 29:18 says from the Passage translation. Where there is no clear prophetic vision, people quickly wander astray. But when you follow the revelation of the word, heaven's bliss fills your soul. You hear that? Without revelation, where there is no prophetic vision or revelation, people wander astray. If you could change something about yourself, what would it be? If you could just right now make a plan, is there something about your personality? Is there some pitfall you keep falling into? Is there something you keep doing that you don't want to do? Do you keep making the same mistake over and over? If you could change it, would you? But then the next question is, what are you doing about it? Because complaining, grumbling, isn't going to change anything. Moaning, getting depressed over something that you keep doing over and over. You know, this is a time of year when people make New Year's resolutions, and most statistics show that it doesn't last that long. Why? Because a lot of times it's just a fantasy. It's not a plan. There's no reality behind it. It's just you wish. You see, to desire something to change will not change anything. Just to desire it to change won't change anything. To want for something or to wish for something, to wish that something would happen is not enough. Ecclesiastes 5:3 says that a dream comes to pass through the abundance of effort. Dreams rarely, if ever, come to pass or come true just because you have the dream. Just because you want something, just because you hope for it. There has to be effort to bring it to pass. So if you want something to be different, what are you doing about it? If you want something to be different, what are you going to do differently? As we start this new year, many people will come up with resolutions and they'll say they're going to do things differently. But again, without a plan to set that in order, it probably won't happen. Without a vision or a goal, you're just wishing things would change. People often declare how great the new year is going to be. And I see people put words, and I'm not knocking it. If it's a word from God, good for you. But people will say word from God. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of times I read those things about the new year, and I'm like, that's what you said last year and year before. And I've been around long enough to see it's the same things, how great everything's going to be. And it's going to be so much better and double for your trouble. I mean, okay, if that's what you believe, but you said those things last year, and did it happen last year? Or did you just have a year? And the fact is, I don't know anybody who said, oh, by the way, in this year, we're going to have a pandemic. Everybody get ready. No, it was how great everything is going to be. But the fact is, no matter what we go through, if we have a plan and a vision, we can keep our eyes set on what we know we're called to do. And the circumstances, you ever thought about that word circumstance, circumference, to surround? So the things that surround you and stand up around you that try to tell you you can't do what you're called to do, those circumstances don't have to dictate to you what to do. If you've got a vision and you've got a purpose and you've got a plan, you can ask, how does this fit into the vision? And if it does, if there's something God wants to do in that, then God will show you and He'll use it. But the circumstances may not change, but you can still be who you've been called to be and do what you've been called to do in the midst of it. In order for things to change, you have to change things. Let me say that again. Please hear this. In order for things to change, you have to change things. Some of us have to get honest with ourselves. There may be some things we have to change if we want to see some things change. Let me give you just some practical. Let me give you 3 practical things that have helped me. Write the goal down. If you really have a goal, write it down. I would say if it isn't written down, it's not really a goal. It's just a daydream. When you write the goal down, and to me, until I've written it down and made it plain, like Habakkuk says, write the vision, make it plain so someone who reads it can run with it. Until the vision is clear and plain and written down, until the goal is written down, it doesn't really become real to me. And there's something psychologically about writing something down that gets it out of here and puts it on paper where you can see it, a journal or something like that, where you can write it down so you can refer back to it. And then number 2, set small steps to achieving the goal. Without beginning somewhere, you're guaranteed to get nowhere. Without beginning, one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. Eat the elephant one bite at a time. However you have to look at it. But until you start, you're not going to make it anywhere. So setting small, achievable goals really helps some people to start moving toward the goal, the vision, and to fulfill it. So what must be done? Ask yourself, what must be done in order to accomplish the vision? And writing those things down. Here's some of the things that have to do. I remember when I was working to lose weight one time, my mother said the most amazing thing to me. And she was just joking, but it really hit me. She said, well, the first thing you got to start doing is stop gaining. And I was like, wow, that's profound. And how am I going to stop gaining weight? Something has to change. And that's on me. Nobody can make that happen for me. I've got to do something about it. Number 3 is work toward the goal. Remember that a goal gives you something to aim at. And a goal isn't about perfection, but it's about that's where I'm aiming, that's where I'm heading. And it is always good for me at the end of the year to go back and look at my goals and see how many I fulfilled. Man, I do that at the end of the day. I have lists I set for the day, and I go back and I look, how many did I fulfill today? So satisfying to be able to check things off, and then to move to the next day, things that need to go to be done later. And remember, don't grow weary in the process. Don't grow weary in the journey. If you have set the goals and you set small steps toward the goals, and then you're working toward the goal, doing a little bit at a time, man, celebrate every win. Galatians 6:9 says this, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Again, let us not grow weary of doing good. You got a vision, you got a goal, you got a plan. Don't go weary. Don't grow weary in doing good. Don't grow weary in making the small steps toward the completion of that, because in due season, if you don't give up, you will reap. You will reap if you don't give up. So we can't grow weary in this journey on fulfilling our goals. Transitioning from one year to the next for me means doing it well. It means looking at the things I want to take into the new year with me and looking at the things I want to leave behind. For me, it's learning to grieve the things I need to let go of. For me, sometimes it's about relationships. It's hard for me, but sometimes I have to realize I've been trying to make that relationship happen with this person and it's not working. And so it's some profound wisdom. If someone's in your past, there might be a reason. And so sometimes I have to look and say, am I going to keep pouring into this relationship? Is this a toxic relationship? Is this a one-sided relationship? Sometimes those transitions of letting go, and we're going to talk more about transitioning in relationships in the weeks to come. So you have to make the choice of what do I want to take with me into this new year and what do I want to leave behind. If I'm doing good and working hard toward a goal, and if I can expect weariness and discouragement and what I call predictable resistance to come against me, but if I don't give up, I will see results. And remember, resistance with weightlifting is simply there to build muscle. Resistance when you are pressing toward a goal only makes you stronger. Don't let it cause you to give up. I don't even think you can use it as a sign. People will say, well, there's so much resistance. This must be a sign that the enemy's against me. Don't even give place to thoughts about the enemy. There's resistance because you are resisting the plan of God sometimes. There's resistance because you aren't used to lifting these heavy weights. But if you keep doing it, you build up muscle. The resistance just shows what you're not comfortable with. The resistance shows what you're not familiar with, because the unfamiliar we resist. We think the resistance is out there, but a lot of times it's us resisting this. I'm not comfortable with this. I don't know what to do right here. But if I keep going, keep working out, keep trusting, keep doing the thing that I have to do, keep making the small steps forward, keep the journey moving forward and be faithful with the little things, it will produce a harvest in my life. Let me look one more time at Proverbs 29:18 before I close here. It says, where there's no clear prophetic vision, people quickly wander astray. But when you follow the revelation of the word, heaven's bliss fills your soul. And look at that second part right there. When you follow the revelation of the word, when you're studying the word and letting the word live richly inside of you, Colossians 3:16 says, letting the word of Christ dwell in you richly. And as you let Jesus, the word of God, the word that became flesh, now becoming flesh inside of you, when you follow the revelation that he's giving you, heaven's bliss lives inside of you. Heaven's bliss fills your soul. You can be one of those people that even in the midst of difficult circumstance, even in the midst of pandemic, when everybody else is freaking out, when people have no hope, when people don't know how they're going to make it, you can be one of those who has the bliss of heaven. There is a joy that is beyond the world's comprehension. It's the bliss of heaven. There is a peace that passes all understanding. It is the bliss of heaven. It is happy indeed are those who know their God is the Lord. That's the bliss of heaven. When you follow the revelation of the word as it unfolds in our lives, the bliss of heaven fills our souls. Listen, as you make the transition into a new year, there's going to be resistance. Maybe you're one of those that are like, man, I'm glad it's a new year and things are going to be much better this year. But remember, you're going to have to make changes if you want to see things change. Remember, He has a purpose for each of us. God does. God has a purpose and a plan for each of us. And doing His will and His purpose and seeking His face, man, it causes heaven's bliss to fill you. So that no matter what's going on, your circumstances might not change, but the way you are in those circumstances can change. Who you are in the midst of all of that can change. It really is up to you, because the way you live your life will determine whether you live as a worrier or as a warrior, whether you live as someone who knows you can overcome. Man, I know there are difficulties. I know that probably in the news that you've listened to today, there have been plenty of things to worry about. But when you follow the revelation of His Word, the revelation that says, do not fear, you follow the revelation of fear not, that no matter what's going on in this world, man, maybe it's time for you to make a transition from being a worrier full of fear to being a warrior who knows the Lord your God is with you. No matter what is going on, the Lord is with you. As He promised in times of old, as He promised in the new covenant, as the words from the New Testament writers state, we can know that our God is for us. Jesus said He would never leave us nor forsake us. So going into this new year, I don't know what you set your goals to be. I don't know what you're hoping to accomplish. I don't know what your dream or your vision is. But I promise you this, if you make the Lord your goal and your aim, and you seek His face, if you, when the Word comes to you and comes alive in you, if you walk in that revelation, the bliss of heaven is going to flood your soul, and it's going to help you through every difficult situation. Happy New Year.